Bring on the Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Crowded Booth Live. We appreciate you tuning in on a wonderful Wednesday evening. Bryce Coon alongside Ralph Leary. If you're listening over on the radio on Thursday, we appreciate you as well. Ralph's rocking the World Series hoodie once again because it never gets too old. Ralph, what are we, a month out from the World Series championship?
Yeah, it's been what? Month was what? 2 days ago? Yesterday.
2 days ago for our radio listeners, yesterday for our live viewers here today. Yeah, no, I mean, it's been a month. Baseball is going to go into a lockout probably in the next 3 to 4 hours, but that's okay because the Braves did win the World Series. Ralph, did you know this? The season after the lockout, the Braves won the World Series in 94, 95. Now they've won it again, and the lockout has occurred. So baseball is just waiting for Atlanta to bookend both lockouts, and that's all they needed.
Can we just have a lockout after every single season then? If the Braves win the World Series?
I'm okay with having a lockout if it means the Braves get a World Series win.
I agree.
You agree?
I can add more of these right here behind me.
Yeah, what Ralph's pointing to is behind. He's got a nice little championship pennant. 2021 World Series championship. Well, listen, we're so excited for you to join us once again tonight on a fantabulous. You like that, Ralph? Fantabulous Wednesday evening as we get ready to talk a little bit about some college football. We're going to take a deep dive preview into the SEC championship. But most importantly, Ralph, as we get started the show, we got to let people know where to find us. At The Crowded Booth on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Head over to the YouTube page if you want your comments to be a part of tonight's show. We'd love to do that. We're going to bring you all the great info. And we're going to start, Ralph, with some fantastic info. We launched it on Monday. We're doing our new take here. In our new take, are you ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
You ready for it? It's overrated, underrated, or evenly rated. Now, tonight's theme, we started. Now, I know this doesn't make sense for a lot of people, but our theme for this one is going to be sports bar themed. So, Ralph, I'm going to ask you right here. We're going to start with, we have 3 different things. You roll with me on this, and you tell me what you think is indeed the best, okay? You ready?
Ready.
Overrated, underrated, or just evenly rated? Live music at a sports bar.
Overrated.
Tell the people why you believe that to be true.
Because if you're at a restaurant, sports bar, wherever you are, and you have live music playing, and it's too loud, so you have to yell at each other to talk, and or the music's just terrible. The guy can't sing, the guy can't play the instrument he's playing, and it's just bad. You know, and that happens far too often. And I feel like it gets overlooked when you're at a restaurant or a place of a sports bar, and it's live music night. It's for everyone else and who wants to see the guy play. Well, if I want to sit down and watch a game, and I want to hear maybe the announcers in the background, or I want to get excited for a game and talk to my friends about it, and I have this guy playing some just some random song in the background, yelling and playing it really loud, I'm not going to enjoy that very much. So
you don't like it. You just don't like it. You're just not a big fan.
And listen, fan of live music.
And listen, I get that. I understand that. Listen, it's one of those things for me. It's slightly can be underrated, in my opinion, Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
As Ralph changes the lighting completely on his face there for a second. That's okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. No, so I think it's going to be slightly underrated because if you do you get some people that can really sing, and it's a really good time, and you really enjoy it. But other times, Ralph, it can be really bad. It can be very, very bad.
You can.
Ralph, what is going on over there?
I had to fix my sound. I had to unplug something, and I had to plug it back in. We're good now. We're good.
We're good now. It's okay. And then, all right. So as long as you're okay, I'm okay. All right.
We're all good. I couldn't hear very well at first. Yeah, we're good now.
Well, listen, I think, Ralph, the biggest thing for me with live music, if it's good, then it can be underrated. So I'm going to go evenly rated on music because if it's really bad, like you said, then it's completely overrated.
I'm not calling places out.
We're not calling places out.
Well, I want to say one place. It's a chain restaurant, so it's okay to call it out.
I know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
Wild Wing Cafe.
Yep.
If you're there That music's way too loud. You can't hear yourself think.
And you know what stands out for me about Wild Wing is because I went to Wild Wing Cafe last week.
I'm sorry.
And first off, the food was not good.
So not surprised.
Second off, the music, I couldn't even hear myself think. I just want you to know that all of our viewers just heard what just happened over there.
Well, yeah, the thing is, it's a technical difficulty over here. We're okay though.
Do you mean take you off the screen real quick for a second?
No, we're good now. We're good now.
No, okay, so we got that.
Over here.
We got that. All right, now I want to roll with you with this one, okay? So we have live music. How about bar trivia, like sports bar trivia night? Is it overrated, underrated, or just evenly rated for you?
Underrated in a controlled environment.
Okay.
It can get out of hand. Because if you're going to a bar or a restaurant and you're sitting there and you're, at table and you're playing trivia with your friends, and then some people get too into it, they're starting yelling answers out when you're supposed to write your answers down, or like people get, they start using your phones. You're like, all right, I get it. It's kind of fun to use your phone every once in a while, but like if you're there for let's just say Star Wars trivia or something like that,
yeah.
And I know you don't really like Star Wars that much.
I do,
right?
like Star Wars.
Oh, you do. I'm
actually.
sorry. All right, yeah, sorry. If you're there, and I'm just use the example though. If you don't like Star Wars and you're answering questions but you don't know the answers to them, there's no point. Don't do the trivia if you don't understand it. I understand it's having fun, but if you're sitting there using your phone, it kind of defeats the whole point.
I'm going to go sports bar trivia, and I want to say sports bar, not sports trivia, just sports bar trivia in general, like we were talking about. Underrated. If you get a good group of people, it's a ton of fun. I was a part of a weekly trivia group that we went up to when I was in Rome, and it was a ton of fun. We really enjoyed it. So I think that's something that if you get, Ralph, a good group of people, cool atmosphere, like you said, controlled atmosphere as well. Sports bar trivia is good. Let me know this one, the final category that we have, and this is kind of a mixed one. Okay, so we got a slash. Okay, open mic / karaoke night. I'm not talking about like the planned talent that comes in that like, people put on the schedule. Oh, we have so and so playing tonight. No, this is like open mic night for karaoke night.
Bryce and I go into a local bar and restaurant / sports bar
/ pub
and singing "Don't Stop Believing" together.
Exactly.
And people booing us until we leave the restaurant, or actually booing me until I leave the restaurant. Bryce can sing actually.
I did make a few appearances in the men's choir.
Weird.
But what do you think? What do you think about that, Ralph? Seriously. I mean, how open mic night, is that a underrated version of a sports bar atmosphere?
I think it's a very underrated, but slightly average. It's okay. It's just right there. Because it can, like you said, controlled environment, perfect. It can be funny. A lot of people are laughing because the guy can't sing or his jokes are bad. It could be funny. And then, you got the one guy who tries to be American Idol up there and just he just sucks. You're like, okay, dude, you can stop now.
It can be bad. Like, it can get real bad.
Funny. There's a funny bad and just like bad. The guy's trying to be serious and like wants his friends recording him because he wants to show it to the world. And there's that one guy's like, please don't record me. This is going to be bad. It's like me singing up there. It's going to be hilarious.
It's more for the entertainment purposes, not for
the comedy version. If there's an open mic comedy night and you're there, and it's, like I said, it's just fun. Yeah, I'm down for open mic.
You're
night.
down for.
I won't be up there, but I'll be sitting watching.
I'm going to say open mic nights in general, Ralph, are underrated because really not only just from a talent perspective, but also from a people watching perspective. There, you can get quite some characters, especially if you know a good place to go. But listen, that's a lot of fun stuff as well. That's our sports bar. If overrated, equally rated, underrated little spoof that we're doing here to start the show. We used to do a question of the day. Not doing that anymore. We are rolling with this. I like this a lot better. But Ralph, you know what's a good place to eat?
Cook's Hot Dogs.
Cook's Hot Dogs. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about some coaching changes here on the Crowd Booth Live.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place. Fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
Back here on the Crowded Booth Live, Bryce Coon alongside Ralph Leary. Ralph, we talked on Monday, okay? We talked about the coaches leaving. Brian Kelly and made the announcement as we were on the show. There's another announcement that we want to make right here on the show. Marcus Freeman is reportedly going to be the head coach at Notre Dame. Tommy Rees, the former quarterback, current OC, will stay on. That's huge for Notre Dame to be able to retain that. But, Ralph, I want to talk about the way these coaches left,
Yeah.
So give me your thoughts, because I think this is something that a lot of people had issues with. Obviously, the video came out about how Brian Kelly handled it, Lincoln Riley. Before we do that, Ralph, I want to show this quick video, okay? And then we're going to roll into it, because I think this is very interesting to kind of see exactly what happened.
I could tell you personally, if I'm looking at a guy that's a potential transfer incoming here, and that guy quit on his team mid-season, unless there's a extenuating circumstance, I'm gonna have a hard time taking him. And I think a lot of other coaches would echo that as well. So, I mean, because the question in your mind comes up, well, if he did it there, why wouldn't he do it here with us?
Ralph.
There's a word for that, and it's called hypocrite.
Ralph. Okay, so the question we have on the show today is, we're going to start with this. How do we feel about coaches leaving so abruptly? And I want to pose this question because I think it's important. You heard what Lincoln Riley said, and that was earlier in the year. But man, how bad is that? Because, Ralph, we give players so much flack sometimes for leaving a school and fans, but coaches don't have non-competes. They can leave at any time deemed necessary. So wouldn't it be fair for a player just to leave and make a best decision for himself? We're going to talk about it a little bit later on, but how do you feel about how Brian Kelly, and maybe we break it up because it's a little bit different, I think. I'm not sure, and we don't know how, if Riley told the team. We know how Kelly told the team, and it was out there before the team knew. Did you see any of those videos, and kind of what were your takeaways from how Kelly handled that?
Well, I have not seen anything personally from any Notre Dame players to say anything bad about Brian Kelly. I feel like everything's been kind of respectful. I think he really wanted to tell the team himself yesterday morning. I think everything kind of just popped out of nowhere for him, and it kind of screwed him a little bit. It didn't help out his cause for everything, but that's just how rumors spread. They spread fast and they go public, and it's just over for you. So I feel like the team kind of felt backstabbed at first, but then again, once he got sat down and talked to the team, I feel like everything went well for him. I know it's a quick leave for him, but he's been there for so long. I think he's taken Notre Dame to where he could go with it. Can't win a national championship with there, I don't think. It's nothing with the team. I just don't think that they're going to reach that level of winning one. They'll make them, but they won't win them. But I don't think what he did was wrong. Lincoln Riley, on the other hand, I think his is a little more personal, for the sheer fact of what he said. What he said in the press conference. He goes, "I'm not taking the LSU job. I wouldn't take their job right now." Next day, I mean, not even 24 hours later, Bryce, he's up on a plane to Southern California for USC. But and like I said on the show Monday, and if you're on the radio, what you heard Tuesday, I would have taken the same offer. I mean, what they gave him for that job is insane. I mean, why would you not take what they gave him? It's huge. So, for what Lincoln Riley said, I think he's a hypocrite from the first place for what he said and now what he did. Now, it's not like he left in the middle of the season. He left after a loss that basically knocked them out for the rest of the season, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
They're not playing in the conference championship game. They're not playing for a playoff spot anymore. It's just they'll play for a average to above average bowl game. That'd be it for them. And I understand leaving now is a smart thing to do. If you're going to leave now. Start recruiting now, because you got 2 weeks until early sign day. You got to do something big at USC. So both guys leaving now is okay. I feel like I said, Brian Kelly's just understandable. He just got kind of screwed out by the sources going
of how it happened the night before.
Yeah, but if Lincoln Riley's a little more, I feel like it would hurt more if I'm an Oklahoma player.
Well, and I'll ask you this, Ralph, because this is what's interesting to me is when you talk about that, how Kelly handled it today. So what he did, I don't know if you saw, he talked for the team for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I understand that he's got a new job. I get that, but you kind of felt like as a player, you're owed a little bit more. So that brings me to the question: is, in my opinion, we've got to back off players making decisions for themselves. Because if a coach is allowed to leave freely, listen, as much as people don't want to hear this, players don't go to rarely commit to a school. They commit to a coaching staff.
Yeah.
So if that
Well, you
is
saw
indeed,
what did you see the post that Demetrius Davis from Auburn posted?
Mhm.
You saw what he said? I committed to Auburn as a university, not for the coaches.
Yeah. I mean, rarely players do that. I mean,
it's the ones that I feel like want to play at that school for that jersey, at that stadium, and those fans. That's different. Now, if you want to play for Saban, that's different.
Yeah, that's definitely different. But I think that we have to back off a little bit of how we handle some of the coaches, Ralph, because for me, when I look at it, it's one of those things that players are allowed to move around, but we give them a little bit of flack for it. On the other hand, coaches are moving around and we deem it, it's okay, it's whatever. We don't maybe not like how they handle it. But we've got to kind of change this narrative of when a player enters a transfer portal and gets to be a play immediately. Well, why should he be able to do that? Well, that coach left with no strings attached, none whatsoever. And so I think, Ralph, that's the big thing with this is how he left, how they left. And we've seen some of the Oklahoma commits, how they've responded to this. We've seen how some of the Notre Dame players, filmed it and felt about it. It's a interesting thing do we see how it progressed, but I think it's got to change how we view that narrative of when players make decisions for themselves. We just got to be okay with that. We got to be okay with that, Ralph. And I think that's going to be something that going forward will be different. And it'll be difficult because, listen, they passed the rule about players can play immediately. I don't like how the coaches did it, but if we're going to allow that to happen, players should not be given grief for making decisions best for themselves. They shouldn't be.
Well,
and especially when things change. I mean, if you're committed to Oklahoma, or if let's just say Spencer Rattler's a little bit different because he lost his job, but a perfect is Jaden Hazelwood.
Or Caleb Williams.
If Caleb Williams decided to leave, Oklahoma fans can't be mad.
Yeah, I agree.
You shouldn't be mad about it because your coach, the staff entirely is almost going to be different. It's probably going to be different when a new coach comes in. So you're under a different regime.
I'm sorry, you finish.
Well, Hazelwood came in thinking that he was going to play for Riley for 3 years and go to the NFL.
Right.
Now that's changed. Now, why are we so adamant? Well, this is the transfer portal, all this stuff, and all this old man talk about it. When in reality, kid's trying to do what he's best to do to get to the next level. If that means spending his junior season somewhere, I mean, the perfect example is Jamison Williams, who left Ohio State, made a decision, came to Alabama, and now Jamison Williams, while he was very, very good at Ohio State, he's been featured really prominently in Alabama's offense.
Well, hard to be featured in a receiving crew with Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Jackson Smith the Jigba. I think I say his last name.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting right here. Let's see right here. Is it true about the disaster first meeting with Kelly and LSU? I heard he walked out. Joe, I'm not aware of that. I did not know that. If that's something you want to put the link down there, that would be an interesting telltale sign about this because did not know about that. And I know the Notre Dame meeting when he came back was really rough on people. It really was.
It was 15 minutes, and there's a video of Brian Kelly it looked like it's flooring his car out of there. But I mean, I think he also had a plane to catch with bags of cash on it.
Yeah, probably had a plane to catch, and it was probably a private jet. It probably said B. Kelly on the side of it. But listen, it's going to be interesting how that is handled the rest of the way. But listen, we still have football coming. And Ralph, when you still have football on deck and you have that party this weekend, you have to make sure that your heating and air is in sorts. Because if it doesn't, Ralph, we know how uncomfortable it gets. If it's too hot, too stuffy, you don't want that. So that's why you need to call Climate Control Heating and Air, the number one source, the go-to people here in the Chattahoochee Valley area, serving the area since 1983. This company has been kind of the mom and pop around Columbus, Georgia. Everyone knows them. It's a good family-owned business, and it's where you want to go for your needs. You can schedule an appointment today at cchac.com or call them 706-457-5424. They're located at 1236 54th Street in Columbus, Georgia. Once again, serving the Chattahoochee Valley since 1983. Climate Control Heating and Air is the place to go. That phone number, once again, call them and tell them the Crowded Booth sent you, 706-457-5424. Once again, Crowded Booth, Bryce Kuhn and Ralph Leary, your host tonight, as always, Ralph. And man, I was saying it before the show, really kind of got kicked off. I said it as we kind of transitioned out of talking about some of the coaches. But the SEC Championship, we talked a little bit about these games. There's still college football to be left to be played, and there are some big ones. Now, listen, there's some other good games. But out of the Power 5 conference title games, Oklahoma State, the Big 12 Championship, has a lot riding on it because Oklahoma State's playing for a playoff spot.
Michigan and Iowa also has a big spot. If Michigan loses that one, they're done.
Let's say this real quick. Win or lose on Saturday, is Georgia in?
Yes, win or lose. I mean, they're the only team in the country who has a chance to lose and still be in the top 4.
What if it's like 56-0? I mean, it would have to be outrageous, I feel like, for them not to get in.
It would have to be an absolute blowout with both quarterbacks going down, all running backs getting hurt, and Kirby just passed out on the sideline because of just pure shock.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not going to happen. I don't think Georgia gets up 56 points ever this year. So
they've barely given up 56 points on the entire season. So that's one thing that's interesting. But Georgia coming into this game, obviously we know what they are. But Ralph, Alabama, I saw some stuff today, and I kind of agree with it. Bill O'Brien leading this offense. A lot of Crimson Tide fans are not quite happy with how he's done it, Ralph.
Shocker.
In this game, I feel like he's trying to take an NFL approach to this offense. In my opinion, you got to run tempo against Georgia's defense. That's going to be a big thing in this game. How do you see this playing out between Alabama's offense versus Georgia's defense? Because that, to me, is the biggest battle. Alabama's offensive line is a weak spot, is it not?
Oh, 100%. And Auburn went out there and said, we're going to expose every problem that Alabama has. And that was surprising, honestly. I didn't think Auburn had the power to do that. But Alabama's got some problems. They got some problems on the offensive line. A&M exposed them. LSU exposed them. Auburn exposed them. And Georgia's got all the film in the world to just go up there and say, well, we're going to execute perfectly against you. Mm-hmm. We're not. We're better than A&M. We're better than Auburn. We're better than LSU. We have a better team. We have better athletes. We have more depth at those positions. And that's what Alabama should be scared of. Alabama needs to go and look at their whole offensive line and say who we're going to weed out, who's not going to be good enough, who can't make these blocks, who's messed up the most, who has most penalties, and just put the best guy you think has a chance against these linebackers and these ends and these tackles, because more likely than not, you're not blocking them. I'm sorry. Yeah. If you're an Alabama fan, you're a diehard Alabama fan. I'm sorry. I've watched Georgia way too much this year to understand that there's no one really able to stop them defensively. Offensively, you can stop all you want.
I'll say this right here. Georgia has been on the top of college football rankings for most of the season, and why? It's the defensive output. The Bulldogs this season have not allowed a single opponent to score more than 17 points in their 12 regular season games. And since October 30th, Georgia has held 4 of its 5 opponents to single-digit totals. Tennessee had 10 points until a late score pushed their total to 17. Georgia has also allowed 6.9 points and 230.4 yards per game. That's the best by far, and by an FBS defense. And listen, they're favored on Saturday because of this tremendous defense and really a shaky, inconsistent offense that Alabama has put at the field at times. The Crimson Tide failed to score a touchdown until obviously the final minutes of the Iron Bowl on Saturday. They needed 4 overtimes, 4, to avoid an upset against the Auburn Tigers. Alabama's offense has also struggled against the LSU Tigers. The Tide scored 20 points in that game that should have been a blowout really on paper. The lingering concerns in this game for me, Ralph, about Alabama's scoring output make this an even tougher matchup than I think when you look at it from a bigger picture. If Georgia keeps up this impressive, aggressive offensive defensive attack, if they're being a little offensive on the defensive side of the football, they should earn their 13th victory and lock in the number 1 seed of the college football playoff. I think so. Now I'll flip this for you real quick. If Alabama's offense, I don't bet against them. If Alabama's offense finds a rhythm, it could be interesting. Could be interesting.
I want to say one thing to all Alabama fans, and that's just real quick. If you have a problem with Bill O'Brien, you're a moron. Your offense is top 10 in the country. You played bad against Auburn. That's not Bill O'Brien's fault. That's not his play calling problems. Your offensive line couldn't block. You couldn't run the ball. Auburn's defense was prepared for you. Bryce Young did not have his best game. He played really good the fourth quarter. It's no one's fault but the players when they're out there and they're not executing properly. The coaches do their job. They have the game plan set up. If you can't execute that game plan, you can't win a game. Auburn did that on Saturday. They executed properly the first three quarters. They couldn't execute the fourth quarter. Offensively, we're not going to talk about that one. A few things about this Georgia game, though, for Georgia, is that they just got to keep blitzing. Alabama did not know what to do with Auburn blitz on Saturday night. I felt like Auburn blitz, I want to say almost 3 out of 5 to 6 plays a drive, and they were able to execute Bryce Young to scramble, to make quick throws he wasn't comfortable with, and they got in his face. That's what Derek Mason just pointed out. We want number 9 uncomfortable. That's what Georgia's going to do very well. They did that every quarterback all year long. Go back and watch some of the games against Clemson, against Arkansas, and against I'm trying to think who I else watched. Kentucky. Those quarterbacks are not once sitting in the pocket comfortable in that pocket. Just sitting there, they're running around, they're getting hit, they're getting hurried up, they're getting chased around. That's a hard game to win. It reminds me of Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl this past year against the Buccaneers. He was running for his life, never had a chance to sit in that pocket and wait for a receiver to get open. That's what Georgia does the best. They execute every single time. The few times they don't, a big play can happen. And guess what? It's okay. You have a good offense with one of the best upcoming tight ends in the country. Brock Bowers is probably one of the best, like I said, best upcoming tight ends in the country. You have a solid running back room with to me, one of the most underrated running backs. And he gets overlooked because Zamir White and then Kenny McIntosh and all those guys. But James Cook is one of the most talented running backs in this country. He's a great in comparison to his brother. Runs exactly the same when he gets that amount of carries. But he is a great comparison to Alvin Kamara. He's a great slot receiver. He's a great running back out of the backfield. He can do it all. Georgia is going to be just fine this game. I feel like the 13th win, it's easy for them. You knock Alabama out right here, it's a cakewalk the rest of the year.
I like that. I think that's interesting. We're going to post that on Twitter, and I'm going to see how much hate you get from the Alabama fans because that'll be a ton of fun to watch.
I'm not surprised.
But listen, Bryce Young heads into this game with 3,900 passing yards, 40 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. It's not like he's not been bad.
Bill O'Brien's fault.
But if he plays well against Georgia's defense, this has the opportunity to open some doors for Alabama's offense. He has the potential, and we've seen it, to create some good moments, some classic moments against the nation's top-rated defense, but he has to play well from the start, and I think that's where it's key for this team. If Georgia makes a few early stops and gets Alabama's offense out of a rhythm, it's really hard to ever get back into a rhythm or ever establish it. The second thing is Young has to remain upright in the pocket. He was sacked on 7 occasions by Auburn. 3 other defenses this season have got to him 4 times. And Ralph, they haven't faced a defense that is just as stacked as Georgia's, and not many teams will. A lot has to go right for Bryce Young and Bama to win this Saturday, but he proved in the win over Auburn that he could lead a game-tying drive in a pressure-packed situation. That was important. If he delivers again against Georgia, that would be potentially back-to-back Heisman type of moments that could, in a year that the Heisman Trophy conversation's been kind of down, we could see something like that. So as we talk about this, Ralph, I want to kind of get your prediction of what you think will happen. You kind of gave it, but what do you think happens in this group on Saturday night? It's going to be interesting about that.
Oh, dude. As much as I want to talk about this game, and as much as I've talked about it with you and just everyone else, I just feel like it'll come down to whether Georgia's offense can just score at least a few times. Because I think the defense is going to be fine. They're going to hold Alabama as long as they can.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alabama will score more points on field goals than will touchdowns. That might hurt some Alabama fans. I'm sorry. It's just true. The only way to beat Georgia is just to get in scoring position and hopefully get a field goal out of every drive.
Yeah.
Because getting a touchdown is very rare for this team. They don't give up, like you said, was it 6.9 points a game?
Yeah.
You're averaging a touchdown a game. Wow, that's just unreal, honestly. To me, this is one of the best defenses of all time. There's great comparisons in the past. 2011 Alabama defense is up there, I think. Average like 11 points a game or something like that. Hey, both these teams are really good. I mean, they're 1-3 for a reason. Alabama's not a team to overlook, no matter who they are or what year they are. Like I said, we were talking about it a minute ago. The 2019 Alabama team, they lost twice.
Yep.
They lost to LSU, lost to Auburn, then played Michigan in that bowl game. Everyone thought Michigan was going to go there and win the bowl game. Alabama was not really – they don't really care anymore. They went and blew them out. Alabama's not a team to mess around with. I mean, as much as I pull them for Georgia in this game, I feel like Georgia has a strong chance of winning this game big.
Yeah.
I'm not overlooking – I mean, like you said, I don't bet against Saban. It's a hard game to overlook because just of what's going to happen. I think, Georgia's secondary is going to play their best game. They played really well all year. And to me, that's their weakest part of defense. And that's saying a lot of how strong this defense is, because if the linebackers and defense line don't do their job, the secondary might get picked apart every once in a while.
Yeah.
They're good, but they're also kind of young.
They're young. They haven't had to be tested, and I think that's the biggest thing. Rev, I want to go solo here because I think this is very, very important when you talk about what Georgia can do. Listen, I don't think Georgia runs away with the SEC title on Saturday. I don't think that they blow Alabama out, but this is what I do think happens. The Bulldogs defense should frustrate Bryce Young and stop putting up eye-popping passing totals, video game-like numbers. But they really might not pull away by multiple scores as they've done in kind of every single game. Every single game has just kind of been a slow, drawn-out blowout for Georgia, like a painful one for other teams. It hasn't been one of those games where it's just like, oh, yeah, from the first 5 minutes, this is over. Alabama has held 5 of their last 6 opponents to 24 fewer points. It speaks to what Alabama's defense is. The defensive unit allowed the Tide to stay in the Iron Bowl for the whole game and gave them the fourth quarter comeback. Young might not turn in the same heroics as he did at Jordan-Hare, but he will at least give them a chance. I think Alabama's going to have a chance to have a hero role. Now, here's why I think the role's reversed. We've seen it. Georgia fans have seen this tape far too many times. But I think Georgia, since they've made all the necessary stops they needed to make in previous games, I think the best defense wins this one. I got Georgia winning this one 24-14. A late field goal to ice it. But this job is going to take until the fourth quarter to complete. I've got the Dogs winning this, getting their 13th win, knocking Alabama out of the college football playoff conversation. It's going to be interesting. There's no doubt about it. But this has some very, very interesting storylines with kind of what happens. We got right here, Joe Matero. Remember, young players in big games always play real close in the first quarter until they calm down a bit. Yes, that is true. Joe Matero as well. If Alabama picks apart the pass defense, it could get ugly late. That's a storyline not all the people are talking about. But it's going to take a heroic effort out of Alabama's offensive line to be able to give Young time. It will be. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that, Ralph. We're going to have to see something from Alabama's offensive front that we haven't seen this season, really.
They need to play as well as they did against Ole Miss, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The Ole Miss game, I feel like it was really Alabama's coming out party this year. The Miami game Miami was really bad at the beginning of the year. Let's be honest here. The Ole Miss game was the one that everyone thought Ole Miss had a chance to win. It was Lane Kiffin's first time beating Saban. Everyone thought it could happen, but it didn't. Ole Miss was overhyped in that game, and Alabama came in and whooped them. It's the other way around this year. I think this game right here is just – I just want to see two things of this. I want to see Georgia defense is their normal game. Plays they do all year. Don't change anything up. Don't do something super over the top. They don't do that. They do the same blitzes. They show you a different front every once in a while, and they execute properly. You can't ask them to do much more than that. Offensively, though, I want to see Stetson make the big throws. He's got to in this game. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Stetson Bennett yet this game because is he going to be the quarterback the whole game, or are we going to see JT Daniels come in? As much as I ride with Stetson Bennett because he's a winner. He's winning for you right now. No reason to take him out. But if he can't make those big throws, it's a big game right here. This is not Charleston Southern. This is not Missouri. This is Alabama. This is the SEC championship game. There's no messing up this one.
Well, and the biggest thing with that, Bennett has grown a lot, and I think a lot of people. I think the argument against Bennett is kind of ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
Because he's shown the ability to make big throws.
He's a winner.
He's a winner. He's finding a way to win. It's not the sexy way. It's not what Georgia fans at first were like, well, we're the team that's number one in the country. We need the 5-star. No, I mean, this kid's just going out there and I know it hurts you, Ralph, because I know you got a man down at Troy that wants to win the walk-on of the year, but Bennett's probably going to win that in their own right, especially if he wins a national championship with this team.
If you're gonna mention it, the guy who's led the country in tackles the past 3 years deserves a warning. I'm just gonna say because he's on a Group of 5 program that was kind of put in the flames because of a bad coaching change. But to watch that kid play for the past 3 years, honestly, Bryce, there's no one really deserves more than that kid. He's worked his butt off, and I know Stetson Bennett's a great quarterback. It's a great story at Georgia. But he's surrounded by a lot better talent at Georgia than Carlton Martial is at
It
Troy.
elevates his play, that's for sure. It elevates his play, and it helps when you have an offensive line that's as deep as theirs.
Yeah, I also want to say, though, Brock Bowers is going to have a great game. I feel like Georgia's going to try, Alabama's going to try to cover him. There's no one on Alabama's defense, in my opinion, that could cover him properly.
Or Darnell Washington. If you run too tight and set, it's going to get ugly.
He is so big. Why does he not have more plays? The dude is massive. He's too good. He shouldn't be playing football. There's a sport called basketball he needs to go play. He's 6'8". I mean, if he runs like I think he does, I mean, he's better than LeBron already in college basketball. Just put him out there at Georgia. Put him in there at center, and Georgia's probably beating Memphis right now. Let's just be honest here. Darnell Washington is a cheat code. If Brock Bowers did cheat code, so is Darnell Washington times 5.
And just think if they run 12 personnel, that's a nightmare.
You get me excited because I'm ready to see Lad McConkey get score a touchdown against Alabama. I will sprint up and down the streets if Lad McConkey gets a touchdown.
Well, Ralph, let's wrap up our show and let's talk about your. Go ahead.
Just one thing. If I were to tell you at the beginning of the year that Georgia's leading receivers were going to be Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey, would you believe me?
I would say Georgia's probably 8-4.
Well, they're not. They're 12-0.
12-0, the best team in the country. Yeah, it's interesting. Ralph, we're going to do our picks now for the playoff. Okay, you ready for this? Who do you see in the top 4? And obviously, it has a lot to do with the season. Presented by Dr. Squatch. So these are our playoff picks presented by Dr. Squatch as we wrap up tonight's show. Ralph, who you rolling with in your top 4? We'll go number 1. Who you rolling with?
Georgia.
That means Georgia wins the SEC title.
Yep.
Number 2.
Michigan.
The Wolverines. Big Blue Nation. Number 3.
Oklahoma State. The Big 12 champions.
Big 12 champion. And number 4.
Cincinnati.
I like it.
I don't think Cincinnati gets knocked out. I don't think they're going to be overlooked because I just feel like they're going to win their conference. You have to put them in at this point. You have to. If you overlook them all season long, you put them in the first playoff rankings. They were ranked 7th?
Yeah.
That's a slap in the face. They've worked their butts off to get here. They've beaten some pretty decent teams. I know people are overlooking, some of the schools they play, but they play some good games. They're a good team, and I know they'll have to play Georgia first, and it probably won't be a very good game, but who knows?
Yeah, that's okay. It's all right. I understand, Ralph. You hear me?
Are you about the same in my?
I'm actually not. I want to hit my own Joe Matero before he gets out of the show. I'm going to wrap up the show. Remember, he has his nice glass of wine there. See you next week. We'll see you next week, Joe. Number 1, Georgia. No, I apologize. Number 1, Michigan. Number 2, Alabama.
Oh, God, Bryce, you're not doing this, are you?
After I just picked Georgia to win. After I just picked Georgia to win, I'm going Alabama's going to win it. I think Alabama wins. Or do I have to stick true to my pick, Ralph?
You stay true to your pick, but also if you're gonna pick Alabama to win, you got to put them at 1 because they'll be at 1.
No, I don't think they'll be at 1.
They'll be at 1.
I don't think it depends on where they put Georgia. That's what because they're not going to face off in a. Anyways, okay, I'll stick with my original. Georgia 1. Okay, I got Georgia 1. I've got Michigan 2, Cincinnati 3, And number 4 is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Oh my God.
I think Oklahoma State loses in the Big 12 championship game. I'm ready for utter chaos when Iowa beats Michigan, and then you have a playoff
7-6.
Then you have a playoff, Ralph, of you have a playoff as Ole Miss creeps in, or Alabama, or Ohio State. We need to stop the show. This is getting too wild. I can't handle this anymore.
Can Iowa make it in now?
Iowa could make
Every
it.
team gets COVID. Iowa slips in at 4.
And they'd be the Big Ten champion. I don't know. No, this is going to be a fun time. National championship, who you rolling with? I got Georgia, Michigan. Georgia, Michigan. Who wins?
Georgia outright.
Georgia outright. 2020.
I just want to say one thing though about Michigan. If you haven't watched it, go watch Juwan Howard and Jim Harbaugh's reaction after the game. It's wholesome. I feel like Jim Harbaugh has finally done what he wanted to do at Michigan, and is going to establish himself as they're finally here. Michigan's finally back.
Yes.
Because he finally beat Ohio State. And then that's one thing he has not done there since. So he's back.
I'm down. I'm down for that, Ralph. You know what I'm also down for? Our official sponsor now.
Your soap is and your body wash is a synthetic detergent, but you're not a dish. You're a man. Switch to Dr. Squatch natural soap for men who build things. Open pickle jars on the first try. Slay dragons and let their daughters braid their hair. Men who like to feel good and smell titillating. Dr. Squatch takes you places you never thought you'd go. Naked.
We appreciate it so much. Ralph Leary and Bryce Coon, the Crowded Booth Live, where you never fail to get some interesting entertainment. You need to check out Section 103, their gear as well. Cook's Place in Columbus. Go grab the best scrambled dog in town. Dr. Squatch. We got the Cedar Citrus right here, as well as Climate Control Heating Air. Ralph, any final words for the people as we wrap up tonight's show? That's it.
There's a good game Saturday. Sit down, watch football all day.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.